previously mentioned at the last meeting. She's been in contact with them as well. The only caveat is that our plaza is being redone, so it's going to be torn out and kind of upgraded. So the timing is a concern, and we're working with MTC on sending the grant for the signage. I believe it's possible they might just do signage anyway as part of the BART Plaza update. But I'm waiting for an update from her, and if I don't hear that we are going to be moving forward by January with BART signage, then I will look to MTC to decide whether or not we use that grant funding for transit screen in other locations throughout the city. It would be easier for us to keep the grant using it at the BART station than it would be to ask for us to use the money elsewhere throughout the city. So it'll be a little bit more of a challenge. And we do, again, have a funding deadline that we need to meet. So they want the reimbursements requested by June 30th, and they want another project is on track in January. So that is the update there.
So I would like to suggest that we, the board, empower our executive director to do whatever is best regarding this grant and not expect that you have to report back to us.
Okay.
If you think the money's gonna disappear, figure out how we can spend it that benefits us in any way. You know, I don't want it disappearing because you had to come back and get direction from us.
Right.
If you can come back and you want to, I'm not saying don't, but
Yeah.
I'd just like to empower you to, if we're going to lose it, to use it.
Okay.
Just, does anyone have an objection to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Perfect.
Because, you know, you may find out.
Yeah.
You know, an email or something that just says what you're deciding.
Right. Okay.
Could be helpful.
Will do. Absolutely. I think the best use of it would be to do something at the plaza.
Yeah.
Station. That's our first opportunity. So hopefully we can work.
You know, it's the free money piece, though, is we don't
Yeah.
want to lose that.
And then that's what's motivating them. So that's the only concern is the timing. So we need to get that done. On to the business items. The first item on the agenda is the review and approval of the transportation agreement with the Berkeley Gateway TMA to continue providing operation and services for the West Berkeley shuttle. For those of you that aren't familiar, we do, Emeryville TMA, our shuttle operator, does run the West Berkeley shuttle, which runs out of the Ashby BART station to various businesses throughout the West Berkeley area. We entered into our initial agreement in March of 2011 and have issued several amendments, I believe 2 amendments to extend the contract term with no change in cost since 2011 when we entered into the agreement. We provide a connection between Emery Go-Round and West Berkeley shuttle at the Berkeley Bowl, so we do have a way to connect there to provide West Berkeley folks with the ability to get to Emeryville and vice versa. The ETMA does earn a modest revenue stream, approximately $30,000 give or take a year for providing this service. That revenue stream also acts as a contingency for any cost overruns that we may have on the service, which with this service it's very predictable because it's the same service hours every day. So pretty much it kind of runs a pretty straight streamline on cost. We have proposed modifications to the agreement. Rather than amending the agreement, we thought it'd be good to update it. We've got some various changes that have happened with the service. We no longer provide service to Berkeley Amtrak station. We didn't have enough ridership up there, and the cost to run the service that all the way up to the Berkeley Amtrak station was just didn't measure up. And then we also have to increase the cost 8% to basically continue to provide ETMA that modest revenue stream and to reflect our new operator's contract. We have not received yet a response from the Berkeley Gateway TMA, waiting for that. But what I'm recommending we do is get ETMA board approval on the draft that is included in your packet here. If the BGTMA agrees to the agreement terms as I have proposed, then we move on with their approvals. If they come back and they have other changes, then I would have to revisit the TMA board for those approvals unless the board authorizes us to make non-monetary changes to the agreement, minor changes to specific language edits. You guys can do that so that we can continue providing the service. The service expires, our contract for the service expires December 31st, and If we do need to have time to come, we do need to come back, I'm going to ask BGTMA to give us a notice to proceed so that we have commitments of funding beyond December 31st until we can get a new agreement executed.
So Ronnie, just to remind all of us, we're just running a one bus shuttle there, and when I say we, MV is providing all the work with a little oversight by you all,
Mhm.
against which we make some money.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So when you say there could be cost overruns, I mean, we have fixed costs with MV for this, don't we?
We do, exactly, because we have a vehicle cost and we don't pay for maintenance. So, like I said, the costs are rather streamlined. We don't have issues with, typically with cost overruns. Any planning services that we have for them, if they have extensive transit planning services, are billed in addition to the daily rate in which we've provided in the contract here. So we don't typically have. The one thing that we did do this in the last 2 years, we increased service. We increased service by an hour, and we're able to absorb that cost because we had savings through MV's agreement. If you recall, we had a prior operator, we had cost savings, so we were able to incorporate those changes at no additional cost to them. So to answer your question, the costs are very predictable.
Okay.
Yeah.
The shuttle, what is on the side of it?
It says West Berkeley Shuttle. It's got some graphic work on the side. Their logo is green and blue, or kind of like a purplish blue color. And it's, again, the shuttle is provided by MV. It's about 32-foot shuttle, I believe, and like 28 passengers.
I would make the recommendation that you continue to negotiate from a non-monetary standpoint, unless it's monetary or term related.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that's something you can handle and just distribute to the board if you all agree. Term and monetary would be the things that have
Come back with.
Come
Okay,
back.
so that's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I didn't hear, I heard everyone say aye. Okay.
Okay.
Ronnie,
Is it- oh, go
just a
ahead.
question. It looks like you did 1-year extensions before. This looks like a 2. Any reason for
It
the
is.
change?
So we're proposing the 2-year extension if they agree. Now, again, the term could be shortened if they don't want to commit to another year.
Right.
We're proposing this because this is what our operator contract is. So we're looking to be
Okay.
consistent and not come back for anything. We know what our costs are going to be, so I'm comfortable providing a longer term
Okay.
for this service. Okay, next item is the review, the consider approval of the proposed scope of work and budget for Graybo and Scott, which is Mary and I, to provide continued executive director and agency management services through December 31st, 2016. We've developed a scope of work, which is in your packet, for 2016. Our team includes myself, Mary, and Karen Boggs, who has been in the last 2 meetings. Karen's focus has been more on the shuttle operations, and Mary is our executive assistant. We anticipate a 15 to 20% increase in services as we increase the Emery-go-round services in general, and then also navigate through the new PBID membership process. Our proposed costs are still 10% of the ETMA budget, which is consistent with the prior years that we've had on our contract. This year, our focus is going to be really improving the Emery-go-round rider experience. We've had focus on the PBID renewal of the past year, and I think it's time to kind of shift our focus over to improving rider alert, rider notifications, researching new programs as real-time tracking systems, and transit screens, and incorporating Emery-go-round into the Google Transit feed and other trip planning applications. And we'll also be conducting a rider survey once we have if we choose to implement route changes and service changes, we will conduct a survey 6 months after to try to kind of gauge the satisfaction of riders. So that really is our focus this year, to improve the rider experience on our service. We've enjoyed working with the TMA for the past 5 years and appreciate the opportunity to continue providing these services. Any questions?
So, will you describe for us the question I asked about what this money means. Is it fixed? Is it variable?
Right, okay, so we work on a contract where we provide a scope of work. Our fee that we're proposing matches with the scope of work that we're providing. If something happened where it required our team to work more, then we would notify the board in advance of incurring any additional scope and budget. If we decide to not implement service changes or increase service, or let's just say that new PBID membership is not that invasive, we don't spend the money that we don't use. So we basically work and bill for the hours that we incur.
So it's effectively T&M against a max.
Exactly.
And then, so your estimation, the maximum you said is 15% increase, you said.
Right.
But our budget is increasing. I mean, not that, obviously, management
Right.
hopefully doesn't scale with the budget, but the budget's gone up 30%
Right.
roughly, right?
Mhm.
But
So,
we're trying to do more too, so I think that's the
Yeah.
point, is that we're asking the company to cover more
Right.
services for us.
right.
Yeah.
But it's scaling,
Scaling.
we're getting some economies of scale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our percentage is going down, like somewhat going down because the budget is so much larger, so. The larger operation you have, kind of, it appears to be the smaller your administrative burden is, because it's scaled differently. Typically for transit operations, I believe the overall administration is around 20%. And Emeryville and this service, we're at 12-13%.
Very
So for
efficient.
all professional services, so very, very efficient. Not having a full-time staff, everybody's contracted to work the hours that they're working, and we provide half of my time, half of Mary's time, and half of Karen's time. So we've got about 1.5 full-time equivalent.
So Ronnie, is there feedback you could give us as the board in terms of the application of your team's time that seems inefficient or a lot of time spent? I mean, are there ways the way we utilize you could be seem inefficient, whether they're in our control or not? You know?
Well, what we try to do is we try to use staff the most efficiently. So those with the expertise in certain areas, we shift, those items to those people. And people that bill at different rates, we make sure we are billing the most efficiently as well. So, but in terms of how the board can help is obviously making sure we reach a quorum, that we're not planning for meetings and holding meetings and getting packets together and then the meeting doesn't go through. So that's one way. Obviously, everyone's got commitments. This is a volunteer board, so we are completely understanding of it. But just making sure that when we schedule meetings and we have meetings that we have enough people to attend. I think in January what I would like to do is come back with a proposed calendar of meetings rather than assume every month we're going to meet, because to the extent possible, I'd like to maximize the use of these meetings and group items that are needing board's approval and efficiently hold meetings so that we don't have every monthly meeting.
Any other part of it? I mean, you suggested when we renewed MV's contract, they're doing a good job, so you're not over
Right.
investing in managing them. I mean,
Right,
anywhere
no.
else, or is that?
No, but I do think that there needs to be some attention to the operation. I think, Jean has done a fantastic job, as I mentioned at the last meeting, kind of within the, her power to do the best she can in managing the operation. But I think there are definitely things that we can help improve with that, so. And these proposed service changes is one of those steps. And then also coordinating with the city, I think another focus, and this kind of shifts off of our clinic a little bit, is really trying to figure out how we can improve traffic flow in the city. This traffic is becoming a huge issue, and we can't predict our schedules if we're stuck in traffic. So there's got to be a better way to move our buses through the city.
That's one of the questions I have, is that becomes more of an issue in the city.
Mhm.
Do we have more management time required?
We have an allocation of time to cover coordination with the city, and yes, there is. And obviously, if it was a significant amount of time, which I don't anticipate it being, then we would say this is taking a lot more of our time.
Okay.
And we'd let you know that this effort's been a lot more. But for the most part, for the history of this contract, we make it a proposed scope of work. Some things take less time, some things take more time. At the end of the day, it pretty much always balances out. The last 2 years, we've remained under our budget for this contract. Under, meaning we didn't even spend the full budget. So
So we're in a good space there.
Yeah.
I'm willing to move approval of that. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, everyone said aye.
Thank you.
I also want to thank you for the work you're doing. I really appreciate the work that the team does.
Thanks. Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, do we have any suggestions or requests from others from board
Yeah, I want to
members?
report on a task force meeting that the city called regarding governance. We've talked here about that, and in fact, the last time we spoke, we talked about implementing our own changes because we were concerned about how long the city may take to implement, to do their process that doesn't control us, but sort of is a veto over us. They called the task force. There are a number of people, there are 4 of us here who are there sitting in that room, so I'm happy to have any of you contribute after I, 5, yeah, Cindy, right, Cindy's here on the city's behalf, but, so the force that Cindy called, there are 4 people who are sitting in that meeting. I'll try to shorten and get to the bottom line is the general consensus of the group. Well, the recommendation of the city was along the lines of what we proposed with one change that I think is meaningful, to alter the distribution of votes of commercial properties from the 7 largest payers and 2 businesses that are not in the top 7, sometimes called small business, but it's really anybody who's not in those top 7, to be 6 top payers and 3 non-top payers. I'll call them that, right? Non-top payers. Which the city recommended, which the general consensus was willing to accept. Again, this is a sort of advisory board to the city. And again, the city gets to have a sniff test on our governance. So this board will need to decide if it's okay with that governance process. But the other thing that came out of it, and Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think other than needing 2 or 3 meetings of that group, there was consensus that that group completed its work in that first meeting.
Oh, very good.
So, okay, Cindy's nodding yes. Yeah, so the next steps, and this is where I actually could use some of Cindy's help, is why don't you tell us what you perceive the next steps to be in timing of that from the city's standpoint, because your process is different, right, than ours, really.
Yeah, so I think we were going to work together with legal to come up with the new bylaws. And then I was going to present a draft at a city council meeting. And I'd like to wrap that in. We're also talking about a senior rebate for the PBID. So I'd like to take those 2 things together. So if we can have something by March, or I mean, even if we're ready earlier than that, I'd like to take that to the city council.
In March.
And if we have it ready by the end of February, that's doable too. And so then the draft will go, and then you'll hold a general membership meeting to vote on the new bylaws. And then after that, we'll put those bylaws into the management contract, which we're hoping to go to the city by the end of March.
Okay.
So there are a couple issues that I'd like to raise. First of all, any other attendees have thoughts? Chime in.
I was curious about the mechanics of I think the decision, or what we recommended was that the 3 non-top payers would be voted on, and exactly how that was going to happen. Does that then, are you going to be sending out notification to all of the residents and all of the people?
No, it happens here at your board meeting, the 3 business or small non-top payers get voted in.
We would hold up
Yes.
the coalition.
So what was discussed at that group was that the 2 residential seats would be city council appointees,
That's right.
which was consistent with what our discussion had been,
Mhm.
meaning we don't want to handle that challenge of how that's decided, and that the non-top payer votes would be a vote that we'd handle not unlike we've done before. So I guess the the issues for this board will be several. One, what do we think about that? And I think, I don't know, we can discuss it today, or we could discuss it with a framework of some proposed changes to the bylaws, because there are other changes suggested about, we need to work with the city on this, but the committee said things like, we want to make sure that if seats are not ever being taken, that there's some way to cause those seats to get taken. So if someone doesn't come ever, we can't just leave a seat empty, because it's not accomplishing sort of the democratic effort to vote, so that the top payers would have the ability to have seconds, so to speak, that the residents appointed would, if they were absent a number of times, they get de-seated and someone else is put in their place, because we want the board that works and not have non-quorums, just what you listed as the biggest problem.
Right.
Right? So, so that was what was discussed there. I think we need to have a good discussion about it at this level. We need to see all those details. So maybe we can flesh those out and share them here and have a dialogue about it at a next meeting. I mean, we can talk about it also here. And then the other question, I think we were concerned that there was going to be a gap between doing this, so that we were going to adopt something so we could fill some seats and have people engaged in the conversation. This is happening sooner, so I don't know if it's worth us trying to do that. I don't think so, if it could happen by March, but if it goes longer, then I would revise my opinion, but I'm not sure that urgency, if it was 6 months of no voices, and we have itinerant voluntary residential voices that was pointed out in the meeting, that some of those are more present than some of our elected seats.
Right.
So, so that was that was the result of that meeting and what I think about it. But questions or comments, or anybody else who was sitting in there? Jen was there.
I have a couple of questions, if I could. Who's the seventh person or the seventh company in the top pairs now that would get
That's a
kicked
good
off?
question.
Well, so there's a whole new set of
No,
seven.
I
Yeah, there's a
know.
whole.
And
You've seen
Ronnie,
the list.
I've seen the list.
I'll read them. I have them.
Okay.
In order.
Jesus.
Wareham is going to dutifully hand the baton to largest payer to Bay Street. East Bay Bridge Shopping Center becomes second. Wareham will be third. The Towers fourth. The Public Market fifth. Powell Street Plaza sixth. And IKEA, who actually had been on this board and pushed off because of size,
Right.
is seventh.
Okay. So
they're a bubble seat,
Yeah.
right, in this scenario.
And in the, thanks, Jeff, in the discussions you had with the city, for the non-top payers, could it be anyone from 6 down, theoretically?
This board.
Anyone not in the top 6 can
Yeah.
qualify for any
For
of
the,
those seats.
for the non, okay.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right, so like if IKEA wanted to come.
So if
back,
IKEA wanted
they
to
could
come back,
become-
And can get
Right.
votes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
They did remove the industrial, there was an industrial category,
Right.
and that was removed and merged in with the business. So instead of having 2 business and 1 industrial, it's 3 business.
Right.
and there
Which
was
is
discussion, and
appropriate.
I'm not even clear, Cindy, where you think this ended up. There was a lot of discussion about should one of those business seats require that you're a payer at all? And the person who raised it as they shouldn't be payers then reversed his opinion and realized that he was a payer, and so.
Wasn't there some discussion about the businesses
I
have
think
to
we
have
left the
business
definition
license?
as is.
Yeah.
We left, I thought we left it as is.
So it's payer. That's what I thought also.
Yeah.
Because they're,
Isn't it business, isn't it a licensed business or a payer?
That's what the
I think
definition
that's
said,
what,
yeah.
yeah.
A licensed
I think it went
business
to-
or a
wasn't going to
payer.
be just a payer, and then they
Yeah.
decided to keep it on business or.
yeah. So, any other questions?
No, those
So
are my
you're
two.
working on, I have a question, you're working on the documents right now?
Well, I have all the comments, but
We're
we
gonna
need-
work on it,
We need to
yeah.
get together. Yeah.
Jen, you're gonna work on it.
I thought you volunteered.
This is your slow time of year, right?
Right. We're running 24-hour Star Wars.
Really?
You want to come at 2 a.m. and watch a movie?
I don't know, I didn't know, I wanna come at 4 a.m. actually.
That sounds good. There'll be a line. No, but seriously, so you have all of the documents, so this board should be able to review the documents and provide our comments at the next board meeting? Oh, what is the goal?
We have to go with legal and have them draft the bylaws, but I have all the comments of what the changes that everybody agreed on.
When is our next scheduled board meeting, Ronnie? January?
It's January, yeah.
So I would hope that we could bring that back. That's in advance of Cindy's timing, right? So,
Oh, that's my
There weren't
concern.
a lot of-
Cindy's time.
There weren't a lot of changes.
timing,
There were not a lot of
timing
changes.
in terms of going to
Yeah.
the council.
Yeah.
Well, that's what if we're going to bring it back in the January meeting, and then if we have any comments, that could just push it out.
Are we
further.
going to use, can we provide our initial comments so that?
We're gonna do that together,
Okay,
yes,
got
that's
it.
the
I wanted to make sure our
intent.
comments had gotten, we had
Yeah.
some cleanup that we needed to do.
I mean, the
Yes.
point is, our governance is ours,
Right,
but they have a sniff test
Right.
and can withhold money if it doesn't smell good to them. So we're trying to do it collegially
Right.
in
Good.
one process, not two separate ones or not a us and then edit and,
right, yeah,
and hopefully that will work.
good.
And that document is looking at being distributed then in January to the rest of this
Yeah.
board, correct?
So I have two questions on this. First is, what's the timing? Is it the end of 2016 that this would shift, or is it the beginning of 2016?
Membership meeting, May.
May.
Yep.
Okay.
May is when we hold our annual membership meeting.
And then the second question is this, I don't know all these businesses, but it shifts the board very strongly toward commercial or rental. And I'm wondering how the major businesses will be represented in this scenario.
So, well, what you're saying is there are no user occupied facilities on the list. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Employer, yeah.
The Novartis,
Right.
Grifols, Pixar, the
Exactly.
bigger employers who have
Employer
employees to
campuses.
worry about.
Mhm.
You're saying that in the new structure, we'll have to have a voice by one of the open seats, perhaps.
Right.
Well, everyone has a voice to the extent they can come to
Yeah.
meetings, right?
Yeah,
And
A voting voice is what-
Yeah, and what was pointed out, and we've talked about here, is the management plan, the things we do, we can't vote on a lot of stuff. We hire a general manager, very important thing. But we don't have the ability to, shut the system down, really.
Right.
There's a lot, but you're correct.
yeah.
So was there any discussion of that, of the major employers in Emeryville at the city council meeting having some kind of defined presence as opposed to open seat presence?
There was discussion that, yes, whether it's major employers or employers who aren't business owners, that was the nature of the discussion. So the business license was the intent of allowing people who don't even own property. In the case of your company, you have both.
Right.
But if you sold them all and leased them, this would create the opportunity for
For the renter?
that seat, yeah.
Right.
So that's a valid, those are meaningful issues, right? The truth is, so I'll go past 7. 8 is Hilton. 9 is, Cindy's gonna hear as a mistake, because the yet unbuilt hotel is being billed as number 9, the Bay Street Hotel, and they shouldn't be built until they're complete.
Correct.
But once they're complete, which will be next year, they're number 9. Pixar's number 10. And 2100 Pal's number 11. So Grifols and Novartis not even in 11.
Right.
Yeah. Which,
Yeah. It's the shift in the square footage for us,
right,
yeah.
right.
But that's also the big shift from when they started really jacking up the amount that was allocated to Bay Street and the shopping centers and lowering the amounts that was allocated for the pricing for
Right, it's
offices.
It's a
and
significant change in the billing
Exactly,
structure,
yeah, right.
and so it's not a surprise. It's just,
Right.
I'm looking for representation so that we can keep employees moving,
Yeah.
as well as
Right.
commercial shoppers.
And that was discussed. Jen voiced that, others, that you don't, you know, there was discussion about how many of these might be, you know, distant owners. Now, I don't think that's true in a lot of ways. And interestingly enough, IKEA, you could say, well, that was true, but we had a very active board member from IKEA. So it's hard to determine who's going to be an absentee participant, and the ability to have surrogates or kick people out that don't come was sort of the intention of that. And if people in the top payers don't want their seats, then it rolls down the list too. So
We've already reached out to a few of the top payers, the new members, and we've already received, they love the Emery go-round, but they don't want to serve on the board. So.
Everybody wants to know it's there.
Yeah, exactly.
well, when it works well, no one thinks they need to participate, right? Because they don't know that it doesn't happen automatically, and from their perspective, it does.
Exactly.
So-
And that's what we want to make sure is that the
Right.
say employees can get around as well as.
Other questions or comments? So there's no action there. We're going to try to get something for the next meeting. Any other suggestions, requests from the board?
I just have a question on the earlier item that you brought up, the route changes being posted on the website.
Right.
How are those publicized beyond?
So-
Beyond,
That's a
so
great
people know to
question.
go there.
To
and
go there,
look.
right. So we have notices on our buses, so our vehicles have notices on them. Cindy has agreed to post it on the City of Emeryville website and do an email blast to the notification list that the city has, which I think will reach a broad span, at least Emeryville residents. And just being on our website. But to point them to the website, it's really the bus flyers that have been posted, and the city's getting.
But you gave it to us electronically that we can push out, right? Yeah.
Yes, and you cannot, yes, because there's no changes to the document that I had sent to you previously, but you can also look on the website, it's under Writer Alerts.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be great if the board could get
Yeah,
that
I
out to
think we
your
need to promote
tenants
it to
or
our
employees.
employees, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we send it out to
We can do
our
that.
tenants that
Okay.
Thank you,
those
Bonnie,
sorts of
for being
service.
so responsive to reminding users.
Yeah, thank you, yeah. I think we got it all squared away. I knew there was a little bit of confusion, so.
Anything else? Well, happy holidays. Be sure and catch Star Wars at 4 a.m. with me. Can I go get food at the